Hi everyone, it's Miss Potts, and today we're going to be working with equations. But more importantly, let's take a look at our focus to really dive into what we're going to be talking about today. Our focus for today's lesson is to solve equations with variables on both sides by isolating the variable and using the distributive property. By the end of today's lesson, you should be able to answer this question. How can you solve equations with variables on both sides? So in other words, you should be able to explain this to somebody else to help them figure out how to solve equations with variables on both sides so that you isolate the variable only on one side and then solve for it. As a friendly reminder, when solving multi-step equations, it's important to remember that in order to find a solution to an equation, you must isolate the variable. So in other words, to isolate the variable, you have to get the variable on one side of the equation all by itself. What we're going to start with is taking a look at how to solve equations with variables on both sides. That is working with the commutative property. So let's go ahead and take a look. In this equation, we obviously have our variable h on both sides of the equation. Here's our equal sign. So we first start by rewriting the equation. And we're going to add 5h to both sides. So it disappears on the right side of our equation and it's added to the left side of our equation. And we're going to rewrite that. We're going to combine that. What we did there is we're combining like terms, which is the commutative property. So 3h plus 5h equals 8h. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to subtract 7 from both sides. What we do to one side, we also have to do to the other. So we're left with 8h on the left side of our equation. Negative 1 minus 7 equals negative 8. Now we have 8 that's being multiplied by our variable h. In order to get the variable all by itself and isolate it, we need to use inverse operations. So we're going to divide both sides by 8, which will give us our solution of h equaling negative 1. Now let's take a look at an example that uses the distributive property. First, we're going to write the equation. Just take a look at it and we see that we have our variable f on both sides of our equation. Next, we're going to use the distributive property and distribute 6 to f and to 5. So this will represent 6f plus 30, because 6 times 5 is 30, which is equal to 2f minus 8. Then we're going to subtract 2f from each side. So we're taking away the variable from the right side of our equation and moving it to the left. When we do that, we're left with 4f plus 30 equals negative 8. From here, since we need to try and get that variable all by itself, we're going to subtract 30 from the left side, and then we're going to simplify. So negative 8 minus 30 equals negative 38. And since 4 is being multiplied by our variable f, we need to use the inverse operations in order to get the variable all by itself. So we're going to divide each side by 4 to equal our solution of f equals negative 9.5. Let's take a moment to review what we have learned so far in today's lesson. We have learned how to isolate a variable by getting the variable on one side of the equation, combining like terms, using the commutative property, and using the distributive property in order to solve for a variable, using the commutative and the distributive property. If you have any questions regarding this lesson, please don't hesitate to let me know. Have a great day, guys.